For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. It is Friday, September 29th already. October is here. It's ridiculous to think that, first off, summer goes very fast, right? Everybody always says that. It's soon enough, it's the end of August, and then Labor Day weekend, and then you're back into the swing of things at work, right? And September motors by, and depending on where you live, you pray for warm weather into September because you don't want to think, all right, summer's over, that means the cold weather is coming. So you hope for a good, warm September, which I had where I live, and then all of a sudden it seems like October is one of those iffy months where it could be warm or it could get cold really quickly. Based on this global warming thing, I don't think it's getting very cold in many places right now. So it's strange to think because our friends in Canada are about to celebrate Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is either beginning or mid-October. And that's now, okay, it is officially holiday season at that point for Canadians. You've got about 2 months, till Christmas. And in that point, you have to start holiday shopping. If you're like me, you start that on December 21st, 22nd. But that's when all of the Christmas stuff starts to come out in the stores, and it's just like, okay, boom, now it's here. Where I'm from in Canada, of course, Christmas is cold, and that means snow and all that other stuff. So you almost don't want to get into the holiday spirit because you just equate that with winter, cold, freezing temperatures, snowbanks as high as the eye can, over your head even in some places. So here we are, we're heading into October, and time is flying. Pretty soon I'm about to say, Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. What are you up to this holiday season? But we're not quite there yet. Where we are headed, though, is The Simpsons on Fox is premiering season 29 on Sunday. Now, if you're listening to this after October 1st, it's already happened, so we don't really need to tell you about what happened on the show. You already saw it. But 29 seasons on the air. When you think about it, when you think about a sitcom or really any show these days, they get one season. They're generally, a lot of them will get 2 seasons. They're lucky if they get a third. So to have 29 seasons is incredible. Now, one of the things that I'm going to ask Al Jean, the executive producer of the show, who's coming up in the next segment or two, is how do you keep coming up with story ideas? Because it seems like there's always something new that the family gets up to. And there's some really off-the-wall ones where they go into space or they go and do whatever. So it's not likely to happen, but I guess it's sort of like a fantasy world. I imagine those are fun episodes to write, so I'm going to ask Al about that. But I also want to know, if you were around when The Simpsons first started, like I was, I don't remember exactly. Okay, I remember that I was in grade 3, and a classmate of mine, Miles, was obsessed with the show. And so that, I just remember him always talking about The Simpsons. Now, I don't remember, I'm not going to do the math because I don't want to feel really old, but I don't remember if it was the first season that he was really getting into and talking about. Nevertheless, he was drawing the characters, he really got people into it. He was doodling Homer and Bart and everything, everywhere on his... This is back when we had scribblers. Do you remember a scribbler? And that's kind of how this show was named as well, the Scribble. And so Miles was obsessed with the show. Now, what's funny to think is that people who grew up with the show still watch it. There's a lot of people who still watch The Simpsons. I am one of those people. Now, I'm not saying that I watch it religiously, that I'm like, oh, it's Sunday night, I've got to get home and watch The Simpsons, because people don't necessarily do that nowadays. You record the show and you watch it later. So I still do record The Simpsons. And yeah, it's just one of those shows that is still just kind of funny. So how do they keep it fresh? I'm going to ask Al Jean. He's the executive producer. Coming up in just a few minutes. So let's let's take a break, and then I'm going to go on a rant after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here on The Scribble at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. We've all heard the term gaydar. You know what that means, right? You suspect somebody is a homosexual, or they kind of give you that vibe, and you're just like, okay, yeah, he's gay. Oh, yeah, she's a lesbian. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, I guess it could be argued that you're judging somebody based on the way they act, and we know these days that's not always the best thing to do because you could be entirely wrong. Now, I typically do have a very good gaydar, just because, So when I was in junior high, actually no, I was in high school, and my good friend, her brother was in junior high. So we were graduating from high school the same year that he was graduating from junior high. And we were all talking about our grads, and she said that, oh, well, my brother's got a date for grad. And I jokingly said, oh, well, what's his name? And she's like, no, it's a girl. And I was like, oh, okay, so I get it. He's just not ready to come out. Whatever, that's cool. And I had known the family for many years, so it's not like it was just a suspicion. But certainly there were indications to me anyway. And I don't really remember what it was at the time. I think he was just feminine. And again, that's not to say that he's gay or not, because people are different, right? So I just kind of filed that away. I'm like, all right, that's fine. He's going to grad with a girl. All right. Okay, cool. And then years later, so then my friend had moved away. She moved to Edmonton. Her brother was still in the same city as me. And sure as crap, ran into him. I'm trying to think of where I ran into him or how, but he was holding a guy's hand, and we were just out. I was just out somewhere, I guess. Just one of those situations where you cross paths with somebody, and he's holding hands with a dude, and I was kind of like, oh, okay. Now this is where it gets touchy because you don't know if he's out to his family or not, right? That could be one of those things where maybe he's on the down low and he's doing this kind of stuff. So I didn't want to go and say anything. And like, oh, by the way, just ran into your brother holding a guy's hand. Booyah, who was right? And again, I have sympathy for somebody who is in the closet and doesn't feel comfortable coming out. I totally get that, and I wouldn't want to put somebody through that, and I wouldn't. But then, once I reconnected with my friend not too long later on, she was talking about, oh, I'm going to be coming to the city, and and she mentioned her brother, and I was like, okay, so what's new with him? Then she goes and says, you were right, da-da-da-da-da. So, have you ever been wrong about somebody? Here's the deal. I met a friend's friend. And I don't usually do big group things like dinners and get-togethers and game night and all that other stuff. I'm not big into that, but one of my friends was like, oh, just come to this like barbecue kind of like baseball thing, whatever. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. So I walked the dogs over. It's not like it was a commitment. It was in the neighborhood, so I went. And so I'm introduced to one of my friends, and he seems quite flamboyant. He's got this really eccentric laugh, and just all the signs were there like, okay, he's gay. And not that it's a big deal. I didn't really care. He was a nice person. I didn't care. He's a smoker, so I couldn't really get too close to him because I'm bothered by that. But he was a nice guy and what have you. So again, a couple days go by, a couple weeks go by, and all of a sudden I hear from my friend that so-and-so is engaged, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Good for him. Again, thinking that he's going to be engaged to a guy, and it's like, no, he proposed to his girlfriend when they were on vacation. And I thought, no way. No frickin' way. He's straight. And there was just so much. I mean, we're talking like the way he dressed. We're talking about his mannerisms. We're talking about even just the glasses he wore. Like, I mean, after the baseball, or after the whole barbecue and everything like that, and he got dressed, I guess that people were going out, he's wearing like white pants, belt. So all of these things that, again, here I am judging somebody. Fine, send your hate mail. But all these clues that were just like, okay, he's gay, and that's great. He's eccentric. He loves his style. He's got his personality. He's going for it, and he goes and proposes to a female. Excuse me. He proposes to a female, his longtime girlfriend. Now, again, I didn't know much about him. It was one of the first times I'd met him, or was the first time I met him, and then I'd heard some other things after when there were nothing about relationships, but it was just shocking because here I am thinking, wow, here's a perfect example as to why you shouldn't judge somebody and go, okay, he's gay, because I was incredibly wrong. Now, it's not like I investigated and started researching and creeping him on social media as some people do. I've also seen that where people are like, oh, I believe we've got to find out if she's a lesbian. Oh, we've got to look. Who cares? You know what? And it goes back to that whole, she loves who she loves, she is who she is. If she wants to tell you because she feels it's your business, fine. If she doesn't want to tell you, it's not that she's in the closet, she just doesn't think you need to know. What's the big deal? Whoop-de-frickin' do. So, there you are. So I thought that I had really good gaydar, and then all of a sudden I was proven incredibly wrong. Unless it's going to be one of those marriages where he's marrying the girl for the sake of marrying the girl, and then will eventually come out. Because that could happen too, right? Bruce Jenner? We know that. Okay. Send me an email, your thoughts, live at jbonair.com.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Well, The Simpsons is still a fan favorite on Fox. They're gearing up for another season, and I understand, Bart and Homer were tied up, so we couldn't get them. But, the next best thing, Al Jean, the executive producer, once again joining us on the line. Hello there, Al.
Hey, great to be here.
Well, thanks for chatting. Now, what season is this now? It's
29.
29. Wow. Okay. So let me actually start out by asking that then. After all these years, how do you keep coming up with storylines for the family?
Well, we deal with a family that has real problems, so as long as real families have problems, I think we've got stories. Unfortunately, I think there are a lot of problems, bad for the world, but good for our show, I guess.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So what can we expect now then on season 29? What's coming up?
We have Treehouse of Horror, which contains probably the scariest segment we've ever done, as well as a parody of The Exorcist. The Exorcist is like the bile warm-up segment for the other one. We have a parody of La La Land, where Ed Sheeran is a guest star, and he and Nelson are fighting over Lisa, with music, of course. We have the return of Kelsey Grammer as Sideshow Bob, and we have an episode where clowns become so scary and unpopular that Krusty has to get a regular acting job.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you guys, obviously then, you've written and produced these months in advance, or is it a year? How long is it?
For example, that Krusty idea I just mentioned was pitched by the writer, Mike Price, in December.
Okay. But you guys also insert some really, timely lines here and there. How does that work?
Well, sometimes we're lucky. I didn't know it would be such a huge hit, but that fits right perfectly with the Krusty plot. And then, when it's in color, when we get it back, we could still do changes in the lines up to the very week of air, and we have, changing things depending on events that occur. And so we like to be topical, but I also like the show to be pretty understandable 5-10 years from now. I think we write it early and we watch it years later, and you want it to be consistent.
Well, then, something that happened recently was your Donald Trump, or the White House sort of segment, I guess. Yeah,
we had a little look inside the White House. So everyone depicted in it is gone, except for Trump, pretty much. Sadly, with satire of him, it doesn't veer too far from the truth. It's amazing.
But I know a lot of people found it really hilarious. Did you guys catch any flack or anything for it, though? Did you hear anything from Washington?
No. We parodied Trump several times. He's never been on the show, nor do I ever expect he'll be. and I saw him once signing the Simpson version of him. Somebody had made it into a poster. Homer also challenged him to the Ice Bucket Challenge 4 years ago, and there's a tweet where he accepted from Homer, me not realizing Homer is a cartoon character.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that's just stuff that writes itself, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, he's again, talking earlier about, maybe not so great for the world, but great for the show.
Right. But, now, if he wanted to voice himself on The Simpsons, I'm sure you'd be down for that.
No, I think we would do it.
No?
We've done a lot of satire about him, so I think when you do something like that, then it has to, by the way, we had really tentative discussions with Barack Obama's people, and for the similar reason that we just didn't want to do something that was kind of neutered down and just more like, too after school especially.
Right.
Didn't, get close to using his voice either. We did use Teddy Roosevelt's voice because he had no choice. We just used his from the Library of Congress.
And it's, in the season, there's some far-fetched storylines, like the family going into space or whatever. Are those episodes more fun to produce? Like, it seems like you guys would just have a bit more fun with the off-the-wall kind of extreme things that happen.
As the show has gone along, I really enjoy the ones that are sort of format-breaking episodes. Not that I don't think the characters aren't great and that there's it's all got to be about the family, but it gives you the opportunity to do some really inventive things, like when we did a parody of the episode 24 or the series 24. I wrote one coming out where you see Lisa as a kid and applying to college, and going back and forth in time. That's great to be able to do that.
When you guys have a character that is going to have like a life-changing moment, like let's say coming out of the closet or something like that, who decides that? Is there like a meeting to talk about what we're going to do with this character? How does that happen?
We don't have arcs, but we have a story retreat once every year where all the ideas are pitched to Jim Brooks and Matt Groening, and so we did have the one where we just. The sort of came out and what Burns' reaction was, and the writer just pitched that at the retreat, and it was a great pitch, and we did it.
What's been your favorite episode? Going back to your start with the show, what's your favorite episode?
It's impossible to say a favorite. Some that have meant a lot to me are the first one, the Christmas one, the Homer at the Bat, and the 25th Treehouse, where we did the Kubrick parody, were three that I really loved.
Who's your favorite character?
I love writing for Lisa. I identified more with her. My sister was more like Bart.
Okay, well that's so you're most like Lisa then, or would you be more related to another character then?
Oh no, more like Lisa, where it's just sort of always reading and always studying to see if I could find a better life.
We had this question sent in. What exactly is the role of an executive producer on an animated show? So you were just saying, so there's writing, what else?
Well, I'm the showrunner, so the shorthand is if something goes wrong, it's my fault.
Okay.
I'm the head writer. I work on budgets. I work with the composer. I work with the editing, putting in effects, coming up with stories. Work with the directors, do notes on the storyboards and rewrites on them. So really, all areas of the show are under, my domain.
That's incredible. And so is Homer going to be taking any live calls again this season?
No, we did do it at Comic-Con with Bart taking live questions, and that was fun too. Technology, is pretty good. It will, I'm sure we'll use it again, but, we just don't want to repeat ourselves. It was very fun. Dan did a great job.
Right. Okay. So we've got to wrap this up. I know you told us a bunch of the episodes and things that are coming up. So what's one moment we should look for this season? What's something that when it happens, we're going to say, okay, that's what Al was talking about.
We finally reveal who Bart's new teacher is going to be.
We'll be watching. Well, Al Jean, thanks so much for joining us. Great chatting with you about The Simpsons today. Watch it Sunday nights on Fox.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Jeremy Bradley here on The Scribble. We are continuing on as I see my cell phone in front of me, and it is on silent, by the way, but it is blinking that I just got a new text message. I will give you the courtesy of not reading it until we're done this segment, okay? But the phone brings up a huge topic of conversation. You know, I did write that book called Put Down Your Damn Phone already, and it has sold very, very well. Now, the interesting thing about the book is I thought that young people would have a really good response to it because they're addicted to their phones. So I wasn't sure if parents would buy it for their kids in a way of saying, like, you know, hey, this is about you. Would kids even really care? Would they want to hear about the ridiculousness of their cell phone use? Probably not. Or would it be adults who would buy it for themselves and go, you know what, I can totally relate to this book, it's going to be me. Or would it be an adult buying it for another adult who's like, you know what, you got a problem. Like, the book could be read by so many people and enjoyed and appreciated. And so the surprising demographic that has been buying the book, and it's been out for a couple years now, is old people. Seniors. Can you believe that? Now, I at first didn't think that that would be possible. Years ago, I spoke at a luncheon with a bunch of seniors, old elderly women, and I was there talking about my other book, and I had them, the copies of Put Down Your Damn Phone already, I had the copies with me, and thought, you know what, I'm not going to sell these at the end. Like, there was a table set up at the back of the room after the speaking engagement, and then when I started talking about the other book, because somebody had asked me during a question and answer period, and I started telling them more about it, and I was kind of like, you know what, these people are taking an interest in it because it's their grandkids that don't put down their phone, right? And so that book, believe it or not, sold better than the one that I was actually there talking about and promoting. So it was very interesting that, you know, this eye-opening moment of this group of, and the women were in their 70s or 80s, were taking a shine to a book called Put Down Your Damn Phone already. And now they probably wouldn't have understood the content in it, talking about apps and all those other things. Maybe they did. I don't know. They were a very vital group of people. But certainly they said, you know, I'm getting this for my grandkid. And I'm assuming it would be like a teenage grandson or granddaughter just because, you know, it's kind of a heavy book for a 6-year-old to read. But certainly not heavy. It was weighed a lot, but it was just, you know, the conversation, the tone of the chapters were more geared to teenage and young adults. So anyway, so the whole thing about phone is there an okay time to start calling somebody in the morning or sending a text message? And here's what I'm getting at. So my mom, on a weekend, will call at 10 a.m. And it's usually 10 a.m. on the dot. And if my phone isn't on, then she gets voicemail. But a lot of times I will be in the bathtub, I'll be relaxing, I'll be, you know, just hanging out there. And then she'll call me and I'll look, okay, it's 10:02. All right, it's 10:01. So that's her safe time to call because she feels that she'll wake me up if she calls any earlier. Now, again, I'm not one of those people who sleeps with their phone beside them, so she could call at 6:30 in the morning and it still wouldn't wake me up. But she has that time. There's that limit. I'm not sure that she's ever called me before that, now that I think about it. But certainly 10 a.m. is her okay time. Do you do that with your friends? Is there a time when you're like, oh, you know what, it's almost noon on Sunday. He should be up now, so maybe I'll give him a call. And then you also have, on the flip side of that, if you do text somebody or call them, and it wakes them up, they lecture you as though it's your fault. Well, you know what, you can turn off your phone. You don't have to leave it on right beside your head when you're sleeping. And my mom, by the way, if I have fallen asleep in the evening and I've left the phone on the coffee table or something, the phone does ring and wake me up, but I will still lie and say, no, I wasn't sleeping. And that's something that most people do, right? If you have somebody snoring on the couch beside you and you hit them and they'll do the typical, no, I wasn't sleeping thing. You know that. You've experienced that. So is there a safe time? Is 9 o'clock okay on a Sunday or Saturday? Does it matter the day of the week? I would love to know your thoughts. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. For me, I don't, you know, if I'm up and I'm on my way out somewhere at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'll send you the text. It's your fault if you left your phone on. You can't blame me for that. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Jeremy Bradley here on The Scribble. You know, I'm widely known as a big cheapskate, right? Because that's my best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being a Winnipeg Cheapskate. But there are some things that I do pay full price for. So my parents laugh at me because I went shopping with my mom and my grandma the other day, and if cheese is not on sale, I will still buy it. But if, let's say, a salad dressing is not on sale, where I'm saving 40 cents or just a little tiny amount, I won't buy it. But yet, again, something like cheese, a wine, I will as well. And then it comes to the whole brand name thing. Okay, you know the deal. You've got the box of Cheerios and then the no-name box of, Lupios or whatever they call it. I'm one of those people that I'm going to go for the Cheerios. Even though I know that the no-name or generic brand probably tastes the exact same, is probably made of the exact same thing, I still just go for the Cheerios. And it's the same thing. I'm not a Coke or Pepsi drinker, but again, I'm more likely to go for the Coca-Cola or the Pepsi as opposed to the no-name brand of pop, soda, whatever you want to call it, soft drink. And so I started to kind of think about these things. I was like, okay, same thing with barbecue sauce. I will not get the generic brand of barbecue sauce, but I'll get the Bullseye or the whatever, the A1 or the different kinds of sauce there, even though it's more expensive. And again, the barbecue or the hickory or the whatever probably tastes the same, but for some reason, I just don't do it. And so I kind of started to think, like, it's so strange. But I now, let me admit, though, I will buy those brand names when they're on sale. Those aren't necessarily that I'll buy them at whatever price, but I will get those ones. So even though, let's say I could be having a barbecue for however many people, I will still not buy the generic brand if it's, the brand name is the one that I want. And I will not buy the brand name one, let's say, if it's full price. Okay? But I just refuse to buy the no-name brand of some things. Is there any product like this that you do the same thing for? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. And it's crazy that I never thought of these things before. And we're just trained to feel that way. Now, admittedly, like, my brother is a very big Pepsi drinker, so he will say that Pepsi does not taste the same as the other blue can with the circular logo generic brand. And the same thing with a cola. Doesn't taste the same as Coke. I can't really tell the difference because I don't drink them, so I can't speak to that. But again, a ranch salad dressing is the same as a ranch salad dressing is the same as a ranch salad dressing. But I will buy the Hidden Valley ranch salad dressing as opposed to the generic brand, which is cheaper and maybe almost the same. I don't know. Is that just me? Live@jbonair.com. Live@jbonair.com. Now, again, keeping in mind that I might be a cheapskate when it comes to some things, but I do pay somebody to clean my house, do my yard work, and things like that. I'm not a cheapskate in the fact that I sit and I pinch my pennies. I just watch where I'm spending it, and then I can afford the brand name products if I do want them. Now, it's interesting, though, because when it comes to clothing and things like that, I'm not a label whore. I don't need to have the Calvin Klein, the American Eagle, the whatever. I don't need to have those. I'm actually very plain when it comes to my clothing. But when it comes to my food products, for some reason, I don't know. Now, of course, there's other things like chocolate chips or whatever. I'm just trying to go through the store in my head. Or like the saltine crackers that you end up dipping in soup, the square ones. I don't mind those because those are plain crackers. But again, when it comes to certain types of things, I don't know. Would love to hear your thoughts. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter @The Scribble Show and @thescribbleshow.com.
Oh yes, the Twitter. Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. I want to thank you for tuning in today. Feel free to give me a shout anytime. It's always awesome hearing from you. The email address is live@jbonair.com, live at jbonair.com. If you missed any of the celebrity interviews that we've had on the radio show, and you wouldn't know if you've missed them if you're not tuning in, go to speakfreecelebwatch.com, speakfreecelebwatch.com. That is where we put a lot of the interviews that run a little bit long for the radio and even here on the podcast. You can hear the entire interview afterwards at speakfreecelebwatch.com. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Again, thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a Speak Free media presentation.
If you want some real heat